Welcome to the Wealthsteading Podcast. This is episode 477. Today is July 4th, 2025. I'm your host, John Pugliano. I'm also the founder and money manager at investablewealth.com. Well, happy 4th of July. I hope you're celebrating your independence today. And I wanted to remind you of the fact that many of you may remember, but today is the anniversary of the Wealthsteading Podcast. The first episode aired on the 4th of July, 2014. So we're celebrating our 11th anniversary. I wanted to carry on the tradition and put out just a quick episode today to give you something to think about on your journey to being a wealthsteader and to building wealth. Ultimately, it all comes down to financial independence, which is why going back 11 years ago on Independence Day, I laid out my 10 wealth building principles. Those made up the first 10 episodes of this podcast, and here we are, 477 episodes later. I've tried to provide you my rationale and my reasoning of how I build and preserve my wealth. A key message that I've tried to deliver is that there's a big difference between being wealthy and simply having money or being a high income earner or even someone with a high net worth. And it doesn't necessarily really make them wealthy. There's a reason I named this podcast Wealthsteading, right? It's a takeoff of homesteading. Homesteading is where you learn to live off the land. Wealthsteading is where you learn to live off your assets. But it's more nuanced than that. You actually end up living off your assets because you've created a lifestyle of building assets, building appreciating assets. And it really comes down to there's a big difference between simply being rich and being wealthy. Now, oftentimes I'll use the words interchangeably, and most of us do. Hey, speaking of which, many years ago, I did an episode entitled How Morse Code Made Me Rich. Now, yeah, I should have probably said How Morse Code Made Me Wealthy, but there you have it. I used the word rich. That's episode 349. Even if you have no interest in Morse code, I would encourage you to listen to that episode because it really emphasizes the points that can help you build wealth. And if you are interested in Morse code, then you should absolutely listen to that episode. In any case, the difference between being rich and being wealthy, well, let's turn to artificial intelligence and ask those geniuses. And AI tells me that rich typically refers to having high income or a significant amount of money in the present, right? And that's a key. It talks about your current state, the lifestyles of the rich and famous. You have a lot of things, and you have a lot of things because you have a lot of purchasing power. And a lot of people believe the purpose of having wealth or having money is to spend it, but that's really not the case. And that's why, people often say money doesn't buy you happiness. Well, let me tell you, money buys you a lot of happiness if you spend it properly. But just because you're rich in the here and now doesn't mean you're truly wealthy. And again, turning to artificial intelligence, they tell me that wealth signifies long-term financial security and sustainability. It's not about how much money you necessarily have today, but are you building generational wealth? I would sum it all up to say that the difference between being rich and being wealthy is very similar to comparing intelligence to wisdom. Now, you may be intelligent, you may have an extremely high IQ, but does that mean you have wisdom? Well, not necessarily. Think about that. And a lot of that comes down to how are you spending that wealth? Or actually, how are you not spending it? How are you saving it and reinvesting it? And before you ever worrying about investing or getting a return on your investment, creating passive streams of income, you need to focus on how to not let the money fall through your hands in the first place. The way I've done that over the years is I've developed a very simple system. I ask myself two questions. This is before I make, a big purchase or before I make a big life decision. I ask myself two things. By buying this product or service, does it make me happier? Does it make me freer? And again, very appropriate thing to think about on Independence Day is your freedom. So when you're going to buy something, does it make you happier? Does it make you freer? You'll find, if you're really honest with yourself, that most of the consumer choices that you're going to make don't check the tab in each of those categories. They may make you happy, but they don't increase your freedom. And in a lot of cases, You might get more freedom out of it, but is it really making you happier? Now, I'm not going to go into all the complexities and intricacies of the philosophical side of being happy and being free. But if you truly want to build wealth, then take a deep dive into what makes you happy and what makes you free. And then before you start spending your hard-earned money, or before you start making big life changes, ask yourself those questions. Does it make me free? Does it make me happy? Well, hey, on this 11th birthday of the Wealthsteading Podcast, I want to thank all of you that have been out there. And God willing, I plan to come back for another 11 years of podcasting. So until then, as always, this is John Pugliano wishing you the best returns.